This is Two Nerds and a Joke with Robert and Ernie.
Thanks to my hot girl voice. This is Two Nerds and a Joke with Robert and Ernie. I'm Ernie.
And I'm the slightly disembodied Robert over here because, well, I'm wearing earphones, so my head kind of goes in and out. And it's good times. It's just straight good times. We're here today with a special guest. Those
whole virtual podcasting. Yeah.
I tell you, it's a wonderful thing because we can have guests from all over the world or country in this case. But this time it's special because those of you can see in the upper corner or lower corner, wherever he's going to show up in the final production, you'll see we have a guest. Can we call you the CEO officially, sir?
Yep.
All right, so Alex Dawe is with Dawe. It's singular. Is with us today, and you are the CEO of NGR Comics. Is that the official name? I want to make sure I have it right.
Actually, it's NRG Comics.
Oh, forgot. See, my dyslexia, Ernie. It comes in again. My letters.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I understand. Yeah, it's a play on the word energy. So.
See, there's a theme, Ernie. There's a theme. This is what we get, and we're going to talk today about a couple of things. Obviously, your comic, which is kind of the core of it, but we are going to talk about a few things that are really exciting when you come to a new thing and you're really going to start building a universe out of it and how that works, and kind of talk about what builds a character, especially with you guys just kind of really getting to the thick of it, with your comic number 0 coming out for your crowdfund. So Ernie and I are going to ask you a couple questions, but first tell us a little bit about you so the audience knows exactly who you are.
Well, what's up, guys? My name is Alex Dawe. I just recently turned 28, so happy birthday to me. I'm the co-founder and one of the head writers of NRG Comics. We aim to create the next big superhero universe. So we're starting small, but we one day want to be as big as Marvel or DC, and we want to create a whole brand of characters, of superheroes, never been done before, that take classic tropes, but subvert them and invert them in a way that people could say, wow, this is really original. I want to read more of this. And because, superheroes have been my passion since I was a kid. I grew up on Power Rangers, Bruce Timm, animated shows. It's always what I wanted to do, especially since I can't be one in real life.
Yes, right?
Yeah. So with NRG Comics, we hope to create the next big superhero universe, and we want to do this right by our fans. We want to give them the best stories, the best deals we can. We as fans know what they are going through with some of the more bigger companies, and we want to actually do right by them. We've heard their cries of what they want, and we plan to give them that.
Awesome. Well, Ernie, I know that sometimes I dominate the conversation, so I'm going to let you go first this time, and you can start with your questions before I get started on my rambling rants.
So we all have those moments where we see a comic and we're like, wow, I have this great idea. I know I can make a comic out of it. Now you actually took that step and you're like running with it. So what was it that inspired you to go with?
What inspired me to go with Zener? Well, it's actually kind of a long story. Zener was actually, in a long run, kind of an idea that kind of developed over time. The earliest depiction of him was that he was basically going to be like a all-powerful Superman type who had like Batman's dark personality. And at the time, I couldn't get that to work because I wasn't as good an artist. And then slowly I kept putting back on the shelf again, coming back to it. And one day I just had this idea for, what if a guy had all these psychic powers, not just the basics like telepathy and telekinesis, but what if he had like some of the lesser ones that you see on like television, like mediumship or dowsing? And I decided I had this character for it couldn't work, so I decided to recycle into that and kept going back and forth on this. And eventually got to the point where I was like, psychics, they do a lot of mind reading, but what if they had what if their biggest weakness was their own mind? What if they were suffering from mental problems or stress or psychological issues that made it hard for them to really do their job as a superhero? And so we built on that, and we came up with this character of Zener, who is a guy who wants to do good with his powers, but he's had a tough life in which that he was traumatized at a very young age, spent some time in a mental asylum, and now that he's out, he wants to do good with his powers, but he's kind of his own worst enemy when it comes to it. He's struggling to use his powers for good. He's a doctor in real life, like a psychologist doctor for training. And, he wants to do, like I said, he's a healer by nature. He wants to heal criminals as much as just put a stop to their crimes. But really, he's got his own fragile mentality that's kind of his own kryptonite. He's very powerful, but at any time he could really cause calamity, and that's really working against him in his career. So people are for him as much as they are against him. And he's dealing with and dealing with that really focuses on how hard it is to be a superhero, like things you don't normally see in other comics where superheroes are living the perfect life. But with Zener, you see that it's actually a big responsibility, and there can be a lot of backlash to it.
And one of the interesting things is, and I'm not going to give too much away, but his first big fight, if you will, in the comics, which is really interestingly done, because you kind of take an angle of this. It's almost a little meta, right? I mean, you're taking an angle of this fight where it's like, well, these don't exist, this isn't real, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden it's real. But the thing he fights first really is kind of the opposite of him in a lot of ways, right? That there's no way to redeem. So I think that kind of puts in your face right up in the first half of the comic even, this kind of dynamic of he's really powerful, but I think that really makes it exciting, where you can kind of see that reality of what the world is around him and kind of get introduced after you see the world, right? In that world scenario, that world setting.
Exactly. Like with the issue 0, we kind of built on the world, so we see that there are these very powerful forces at work here, and Zener's caught in the middle of it, and he is powerful himself, but like I said, he's caught in the middle, and they're working against him, trying to just put a hinder on his career as a superhero, and he's just struggling to do his best. He means well, but but it's not like a fairy tale story where he gets like a happy ending all the time. The part of this universe is a real life situation where there are backlashes to being a superhero. Like in our universe, the good guys don't always win. And even when they do, it's like sometimes you got to question the cost of it.
Now, one of the things that a lot of comic books touch on more recently than they used to, and Marvel's doing this a bit, DC kind of skirts this, is what you're kind of talking about, that collateral damage part of being a superhero. You're bashing up a villain in a big fight scene, whatever, right?
Right.
What happens after that? What are the consequences of that physical destruction? Are you guys going to spend, I know you kind of touch on it in this comic, but are you going to kind of keep that as a theme that's going to kind of overarch in this series as you continue this, or expand outward, that there's a real world, quote unquote, collateral damage that can happen from these characters, and kind of delve into that dilemma of, is the good I'm doing worth the consequences I may cause? So you're talking about that real world consequence.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like a lot of we have 3 main titles planned to expand our universe, and through 3 of them, we've expanded like these different ways. A lot of the themes are going on like here are like consequences. Like a real life scenario. In one way, we see how it. One title, we see how it impacts the environment or the world around us. With another, we kind of like we see a fish out of water, in which things are very different from what he's used to. And now he's got to adapt to this situation, kind of live in a world where this hero is not by the same rules of his world. And then with Zener, it's all about, struggling to do good, but at the same time, his good it doesn't always work out. There are forces against him, and sometimes the forces aren't even like the forces of evil. Sometimes it's just life. Life is unfair. That's kind of one of the things we believe in, and that's kind of what we showcase with heroes like Zener, is that like there's a lot of collateral damage. There's a lot of of people who are affected, and really like as much as we want to, we can't make life fair, because like it just can't happen despite how much we want it to.
Now, when creating these characters, when you were talking about that, do you find yourself putting like things about yourself, some other members of the.
Well, in a way, yes, I can. With Zener, it's kind of the same thing because I've struggled with anxiety before and depression, and that's kind of something that he goes through. And another part of it is, I think it's like they say, you write what you know, and you take what you know from the real world, and you put it in you put it in like your stories. And I feel like with Zener, it's a case of like struggling with everyday stuff, like whether it be your life, your job, your romantic life, your friendships, and on top of that, being a superhero, you kind of see how it really all starts to take a toll on this, especially with someone as fragile as Zener. And the same can go for his villains, which we all plan to be very as powerful as him. But that's one of the recurring things we have planned is that they also have like something mentally or psychologically wrong with them, like something made them the way they are, and now they're just acting this way, and it just continues to like have a backlash on them in which like they're their own worst enemies too. So
But their plans always fail because of their internal kryptonite, if you will.
Something like that. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like, of course, the big thing is like Zener stops them, but also like these people, they're kind of like they're damaged as much as Zener is, and Zener, he wants to help these criminals more than he wants to, as much as he wants to stop them from doing bad things. So he's more of a humanitarian than he is a superhero. Like I said before, he's a healer. That's what he sees himself as, mainly a healer.
Now, kind of sounds like a rogue, a gallery of rogue villains. Kind of like, I can't speak, okay, Ernie, don't give me the head shake. I see that. I see you. Where it's kind of like almost an Arkham Asylum's gotten loose, right? Where everybody's power trick thing is based off of real life trauma. Are you going to have an element in there where, okay, he's now stopped them going to rot in a jail cell is really probably not going to heal them? Are you going to have that psychological element go further and kind of do like what happens after ever with the villains? Is that something you're thinking about, like an offshoot story, or the ultimate bad guy turns good, or is cause an anti-villain? Because I know you have plans, you said, to expand. Are you looking to expand in that direction, or do you want to have a gallery of heroes, quote unquote healers, who are going to be a part of this universe that are going to be connected to this main character? Or how are you thinking that is going to be expanded for your comics?
Well, we do plan to like explore our heroes, our villains, just as much as we have with our heroes. Like, in fact, like with some of the characters that you've seen in issue 0, we have directions in them where people are going to be like, okay, it's going this way, but I didn't see it going this way. And a lot of recurring things we have planned with our universe is shades of gray and redemption. Not everything in our universe is black and white. Like it might have been in the old Adam West cartoons or in the golden or silver age of comics. There's great shades of gray areas. Like no hero or villain is purely good or evil or perfect in a sense. And really, you get to see how this kind of affects what they're doing. And especially in Zener's villain's case, you see how like when he's stopping them, you see not only how it affects them, how what they do affects him, but what he tries to do really brings out kind of their inner characters. There are a lot of his villains who aren't completely good, but aren't completely evil. It's like you have a wide variety in which you see how this kind of all ties together. How it like kind of affects each other. Like everything connects. That's what we try to do.
Now, as far as for the book goes, everyone has like a certain style. Did you already have like an idea in your mind what style you wanted to go with, or because like when I think about, you had mentioned earlier, one of the people that you mentioned was Bruce Timm, and he has a very distinct art style. Did you want to kind of like have this universe like have one distinct style, kind of like was trying to model it more of something like a mix of?
Well, like I said, what the thing we try to do with our heroes, like with all the heroes we have planned, is we kind of like every artist or creator like sees something that they want to do and they try to put their own spin on it. In a way, we can do that. It's like we take things that have been done before, but we try to subvert it or invert it in a way that hasn't been done. And like there's no one style to it. Each hero that we have like has their own field with their own genre, with like how they're in. Some are planning to be more humorous. Some are planning to be a lot more scarier. Some are planning to be a little more dramatic. Some plan to tie in the classic elements of classic comics. Some like plan to be their based. It's all about the struggle of like mental stress and struggle, and like especially with him, it's almost like Spider-Man in a sense. Spider-Man doesn't always win. He doesn't always have the audience's favor of him, but he still goes at it because it's not only the right thing to do, but it's because he wants to do it. He wants to use his power responsibly because he knows he can and he should. And Zener is kind of the same way, even though he has like all these forces working against him, even though he's not completely in favor of the public, even though he with issues that Zener has, that's all it really comes down to.
Which is interesting because one of the things you have to think about with comics is the numbering system and how you're going to end up kind of drawing that out. Now, you said you're head writer, correct, as well?
I am the head writer, yes, but I probably should take this moment to say that my editor, Webb, is writing this one because he's the writing style that I wanted. So,
got it. Okay.
But we do work to each other, but the character is my idea, it's my concept, and we do work each other to bring it out better. So.
And there's nothing wrong with a good team as long as it works together. Are you planning to have different teams eventually working at each character, or is it like going to be the same set team of folks? Like you have to have your inker, you have to have your paint, your colorist, you have to have your panel guy. I mean, you have some of these roles combined into one person, for example. But do you have like a set team you want to have working on each character, or is it going to be everybody's going to kind of work on everything? How are you thinking that's going to work out once you expand past the one?
Well, part of that comes to like crossing the bridge when we get there,
Fair enough.
Like, yeah, but what I have always imagined is that, if an artist has a certain style that I feel best brings out the visual elements of a character, I want to have them working on it for as long as I can for them. Like I want them to enjoy the experience first, and if they get better opportunities, I won't stop them. But I would like to use them as much as I can. Case in point with the artist with Juan, he had like this perfect style for bringing out Zener, and he does his own side things with commissions and stuff and his own webcomic. But we hope to continue to work with him because we've gotten to know him. And he's good at what he does. He's got a fair price, and he's just really good. And some of the other artists we work with we want to work with them because they're familiar with our characters and they've given us good projects before, good results. And in the case of like writing the stories, it all comes down to like I kind of want to do some of the writing myself. Like a lot of these are my ideas, and I want to bring out as much of my voice as I can. But if I can find a writer who I feel has more of the voice that can, or the style that brings out the character that I need, like Webb with Zener, then I will hopefully have them on our team. So really, it comes down to just what we need at the moment and what direction, and also what direction we want to take the character in. Because it's an ever journey. The hero's journey is.
Right, it's always going to be a few muddy waters along the way, a few potholes that hopefully will make it all the better on the other side.
Yeah. So, but as we want to be big one day, so we do plan to probably have different teams working on books, but it also comes down to what we can manage at the time. Like we're still an indie company, so we don't have like kind of the big necessities like the big two or some of the smaller ones have. So we basically got to kind of work to the best of our situation, which really, when you're indie, that's the best thing you can do because you don't want to spread yourself too far, but you also don't want to take too many baby steps.
Right, and one of the big steps obviously is going from web to physical.
Exactly.
And that's your big launch. And right now, you said you're doing crowdfunding to get that going.
Yes, we plan to launch Zener's crowdfunding early, like next spring, like so as soon as like March rolls around or something. And in the meantime, we're taking this opportunity to really promote Zener, get them as far as an audience as we can, get people to really sign up for news and updates and just about how they can make this book happen. Because the bigger audience we get, the more likely it'll happen. So that's kind of our big goal right now. And this will be our first crowdfunding project, and we're very excited at it. And we're really working hard to make it a success.
No, definitely makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
So let me ask you
So
this.
in looking at the
Go ahead.
sorry about that. Didn't mean I got the cue and everything right. In speaking about like your experiences with starting this, did you have any influences in the industry that you could point to that you kind of like maybe took advice from, or maybe it was something that you did on your own and probably somebody helped you along? Did you have any of that along the way when you started launching this endeavor?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like when like since this was our first project, we wanted to get advice from professionals. So we looked at artists that we enjoyed following, creators who have their own projects who have been successful with Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and we talked to them. We asked them what they learned from their projects. What they recommended we do, like all the necessary steps we need to take. We did our research on this, and part of it was like my editor had his own project that he tried to get crowdfunded. We learned a lot from that too. So we had a bit of a personal experience with it too. Like one of us did. So we really wanted to do our research on this. Like I said, we want to do it right. And part of that comes down to doing research. And even we're still doing that. We're still looking at other crowdfunding projects, seeing what people are doing, what works, what doesn't. We're learning from our promotions, like what kind of art people like, what they like seeing, what they like hearing. We're looking as to how farther we can go. It's a continuous process. But honestly, I enjoy doing it. I love promoting people's stuff, not just my own. So it's a part of it's the paperwork of the project that I enjoy doing. This part is the paperwork, the red tape stuff, but I enjoy doing it. It's fun because it's what I want to do with my life.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so you're the storyteller in the scenario that's kind of, so do you draw at all? Are you planning to take on that extra little bit, or are you going to stick with the stories and the, if you will, building the universe concept of it yourself, and that's kind of where you feel you see yourself big picture going?
Actually, I'm a bit of a designer. I use a program to design my characters. I designed Zener's look and a lot of the characters in it. Some of my other projects, I have people building on the designs to bring me out the limitations that I have in the program I use. I try to have like as much of an influence on my characters as I can when I have someone working else on them. I try to give them creative freedom. If they have like good ideas, I let them do it. But it's just like I'm not trying to micromanage. I'm just trying to be as part of it as much as I can.
Sure. Touch
like,
all the things.
Yeah, because my goal in life is to create superheroes that will one day people look back on and say that these are their favorites, that they grew up with them, and they're their childhood favorites. They never grew out of loving them, and they say, "Who's your favorite superhero?" It's like, "Oh, it's done by Alex Dawe." It's like, if I can do that, I will be happy. So that's why I try to be involved in the project as much as possible.
So you're looking to become the next Stan Lee, is what you're saying here?
Well, I don't want to compare myself unless I have to. I would like to be the next Stan Lee, but honestly, I think when it comes right down to it, I want to be the first Alex Dawe.
There you go. You want Alex Dawe to be that guy.
Yeah.
No,
but I have met Stan Lee, and just to follow in his footsteps would be a dream. Like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Ryan Ottley, like all these famous creators who made their mark. Just to be part of that would be awesome. But I wanted to do it on my terms, on my projects, and if I can help other people do that too, make their mark, I will be happy to do that.
So where did the love of comics come from? When did that start? Do you remember how you got all involved into that?
Oh, I do. Like I enjoy telling this story to a lot of people. As I explained before the show, I grew up on superheroes. Well, the first of it I think I ever watched as a kid was Power Rangers, and then I was born around the time that Batman the animated series came out, and that was a big influence on me.
Mm.
And then there were other like media platforms like Justice League, and then Teen Titans, and
The
I
real
started
one.
collecting comics based on them, just to further my love for them. And I started slowly browsing into other titles, but I didn't really get into heavy comic collecting until I was in high school. In fact, this is a true story. It happened on my 16th birthday. I was looking for something in my school's library to read during quiet time, and I found Marvel's Runaways. And I was so enthralled by the story and the concept that I just had to read more. So I went to the local comic store and I started like buying all the trade paperbacks. And then when I ran out of those, I started looking at other titles. I looked at Jeff Johns' work. I looked at some Marvel titles. I looked at a whole bunch of DC. But really, the concept to make my own comics has always been there because I also grew up on like books like Captain Underpants where they had like little comics in them. And it made me feel, I could do this. I could like do the storytelling. So I gave it a shot, and I realized I wanted to be a writer, and I decided that I wanted to create my own superheroes. I wanted to do what these creators have done for me.
Well, I can definitely say I don't see the influence of Captain Underpants in your current stories. I think that's probably a good thing, but we'll see. We never know. You might have a comic like that in the future. But yeah, I can kind of see that where you kind of can see what other people have done, and you kind of see that growing up. Because, I remember when I started collecting, and I'm sadly a little older than you, but I definitely had the Batman animated series. I definitely was a comic collector, and I tried my hand at drawing and was not a good thing, and it ended up being something that I just loved collecting and being a part of. I ended up taking the storyline, the story creating aspect of it, because at least I felt that was something I could do, but I never really got further into the comic book realm. Did you ever feel that you could, if you didn't do comic books, would you, and as you said you like to write, was there another medium that if you didn't get into comic books, you feel you could have applied those skills to just in case?
Well, like I have actually, and honestly, I still do because there are a lot of creative like projects I want to do with my life. I've considered writing like novels. I've recently gotten back into writing short stories. Like I'm trying to make a goal of writing a short story for every genre there is.
Nice.
Some of the other projects are like creating animated like television shows because I'm a huge cartoon fan. In college, I took my hand at playwriting, and one of my dreams is to turn Nightmare Before Christmas into a Broadway musical because I'm a huge musical aficionado too. And I
like
just
with
have all
songs
these
and stuff?
What? Well,
Like
yeah.
with songs and stuff?
Yeah. Well, because like it's
Okay.
already musical in itself,
Sure. Okay. Fair enough.
So it's like there's a lot of stuff I want to do, and I feel like I can still do it, but right now my focus is on my comics because that's what I'm most passionate about.
I was just going to say that. Is that like your number one passion, the comic books? Is it just the feel of the paper and everything else, or is it just like bringing stories in your mind to life? Like, what is it that pulls you back?
I think when it comes to comics, it's a good balance of visual art and written storytelling. You not only get to read the story coming together, you get to watch it happen. I mean, it's a form of like physical artwork meets written literature. It's the best of both worlds. You're kind of getting two different mediums. They're coming together, and like you have all these different ways that you can see it happen, like with these different styles of art or writing, and all these different genres and all these different ideas. And it's like it's hard. I mean, it's hard to do that in like other places, because like there's a whole different way to go about it. I think with the comics, you're not just writing the story, you're bringing it to life and through art. That's tough to do.
It's a very tough medium because you don't have quite you don't have quite the versatility that you do with like animation, like, moving animation, the animation. So you have that restriction, but you have to create a craft and a piece of art in each panel to get the story to move along in the right way. And a lot of the action you guys do in your scenes are really vivid and very full of actions. There's a lot going on you kind of have to pay attention to. Do you guys hide little secrets about what you're doing next within what you have, like little hidden Easter eggs and stuff?
Well, sort of in the issue 0, we kind of hinted at sort of things to come, like how it specifically ended with one of like the last minute introductions of the bad guys, and like how it just ends up like, is Zener good or not?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like what happens to Diego Reyes. Like you don't fully know, but you know he's going to be involved in something. And you introduce like these other characters, like you wonder how they're going to play, but you learn that ultimately they're not entirely good, but are they entirely evil? So we kind of we definitely left it on some cliffhangers, and we also had a few Easter eggs in the beginning, just kind of what our world is like.
Right, kind of that. That's one of the things I really enjoyed about the beginning of it too, is you really kind of go meta with it. Like the first couple of scenes and everything that happens is like, it's not real, it's going to be fake, and the boyfriend and girlfriend interaction there is kind of really funny to kind of see in the beginning of a comic book. You don't see that very often. Is that something you feel that you're going to continue to kind of play off of, well, if they were real, and they are, kind of deal?
Actually, it is. Especially that's going to come into play with one of our other planned title series. Give you guys a little sneak peek here. It's called Toon Man, the Animated Ace. And it's about a cartoon character who's banished to our world and becomes a superhero. So you kind of get you get like a fictional character being put into real life scenarios. And and we kind of like do a lot of things with metafiction through that and through our other works of art. And that's definitely the case with, we had Soul Man and Zener, and that's kind of like, it's rare to see kind of fictional works within a fictional works and like see how it affects the characters themselves. And I feel like that's an untapped potential there. It's not really taken advantage of. The only other place I can think of where it happened is either the Grey Ghost in Batman or Science Dog in Invincible.
Right. Yeah, because those are influences, if you will, on those characters to some extent in some of the storylines, one or two of them. But that it's kind of an interesting thing you don't talk about, because even in like the current Marvel multiverse universe and DC universe that they're creating, they kind of avoid the topic in the movies, at least these days, completely. Like there are no superhero movies. Like they don't really talk about it. They kind of avoid it completely. And that's really what you see big picture. And like Image and Counts on the smaller guys who used to or do still exist, again, don't really go to that step and say, what would be the influence of comic books characters on comic book people? I mean, I'm a real live superhero, and I don't want to go to the extreme of like, the shows that are out now, like The Boys, or those types of things where it's going to the ultimate extremes of negativity, positivity kind of deal. But I still want to kind of show that kind of that feel of, if I'm a real superhero and I just went to see Avengers, and it's a fake movie, like those aren't real heroes, but I'm a real hero and I watch that, how is that going to change, or what am I going to now consider because I've now seen that?
Exactly. And that's kind of one of the things we want to capture with this, is like taking a fictional setting and putting it in a real world like environment, because I think when it comes to comics, we all wish, especially in superheroes, we all wish it exists. I know I wish that stuff did exist in real life. And I kind of like bringing that element into my comics, because because you actually get to see it happen. You see this fictional setting becoming reality. And it's kind of, I don't want to call it like audience fulfilling, but it's more like just like tapping into like the creative imaginations of the readers and like kind of their desires. Let's face it, as comic book fans, we'd all love to be like fighting in the Death Star or like throwing the One Ring into Mordor, So if I can try and capture something like that actually happening within my comics, I know I've made a lot of people happy.
Definitely makes sense.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. if you were given the magic wand and you could pick any character from any of your favorite stories, it could be comic book, it could be like actual like classic literature or television, whatever, and you could bring it into your world that you're creating now, who would it be and why?
That's a little bit of a tougher question to answer. There's because like I have a vivid imagination and like I tend to daydream a lot. So there are like a lot of characters that I wish I could bring into a real life setting. Off the top of my head, I think I would want to bring Bugs Bunny into the real world. You know, just to bring like a classic cartoon character and create kind of a Space Jams moment within the world. You know. And I don't know. It'd be awesome to see one of America's, like the world's most favorite cartoon characters actually interacting amongst mankind. But if I had to choose a superhero, I would say I would want probably Superman to come. I'm not like as big on Superman as I am other people, but I feel like in the day we're living now, we could use a Superman.
Yeah,
Someone like who stands for truth this in the American way. I think we need someone like that right now.
I saw your excitement there, Ernie, over that one. definitely.
Oh
A fan.
yes, Big Blue.
Yeah, the Big Blue. Well, you gotta go through it.
I love Superman. I love how iconic he is. I love the potential he has. My favorite Superman has always been the Bruce Timm animated series one. I feel that was the best version done.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wish the comics were a little more like that. But that's a whole different other thing.
That's a whole other episode. We'll get back to that one definitely in the future because that is a whole thing too.
Oh yeah, we got to bring it back for that. I love even the 1940s, era like animation Superman. I love that one too.
Yeah. I could probably go. I would love to do that actually. Just have a rousing discussion, you guys, regarding Superman, just like everything about him that works, what doesn't, what could be done, what couldn't, what's worked best, what hasn't, and just things like we would love to do with it, as the creators if we had a chance.
Oh yeah, take something iconic and really kind of mix it up a little bit. I'm still waiting for my really the dark Superman to come along and Injustice to exist in any form. I don't care. Make an animated movie. I don't care. I just want it to exist. This is one of my favorite stories. So,
actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually end up making an Injustice movie.
I would. You know what? In some form, I would be grateful for that. I don't know what the heck they're doing with the movies right now. I just don't know anymore what DC's trying to pull off. I'm enjoying them as movies individually, but I just like to see that. But even they make an animated movie because they rock the animated movie scene like completely. So even if it's an animated one, I would still watch the hell out of it.
Yeah, you pick any show. There's not been one bad DC animated show or movie.
No, it's
like a strong point,
Oh, absolutely. Well, before we completely go off into another tangent here, into a whole other topic, we want to give you a free moment here to really kind of do the heavy promotion. We're going to have all the links below, either on the YouTube page or whatever podcast service you guys are using, Apple, Spotify, all our great sponsors. We're going to put all the links there as well, but we want to give you that chance to really tell people where they can go, where they can find your stuff, and what comes next.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you for having me again. This has been awesome. I enjoyed moments like these where I can interact with them. Secondly, once again, guys, we are NRG Comics. Our goal is to create the next big superhero universe for the fans, by the fans, and dedicated to the fans. You can find us on such social media sites as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We also have our few comics going on such indie sites as Duck Web Comics, Tapas, Webtoons. Our main sites that we use for like interaction are DeviantArt, like I said, Facebook and Twitter, those two. And right now, the biggest thing we want to promote right now is our Indiegogo page, which has launched our preview, and it'll give you a great example of what's to come in Zener. Right now, you could sign up for emails and notifications on when it's coming out, what we have planned for it, because we have some cool tier rewards for it. Like, for example, if you donate a certain amount, you can be actually drawn into the story. Or if you donate a certain amount, you will get a copy of one of our old projects. And we really can't stress enough, we would like your help and appreciation in helping spread the word on Zener, because the more people who know about it, the more people who become interested in it, the more who wanted to make it happen, it will happen. We can't do this without your help, and we appreciate all help that you can give us, just by signing up or spreading the word. We promise we will not make you regret it. And the thing about NRG is, and us as a team of people, we believe in supporting our fellow indie creators. So if you have a project, if you have something you're working on, let us know, and we will do our best to become invested in it, let other people know about it, because the only way we can all grow as creators is if we support each other. Hashtag indie support.
Indie support, absolutely. Well, we thank you for coming on. We always love talking to creators. It is one of our favorite things to nerd out about and see what the future of comics is going to be, because it is one of those weird fields that is really kind of still open. Even though there's the big boys out there, there's still a lot of room for the independent guys to come up and really make a name for themselves. So we're hoping that you will be one of those guys, and we can say we interviewed him when he was a wee little thing right over there. So we want to be those guys. So we did him first. We knew him better, and all of that. So that's our claim to fame. That's going to be our thing. But we want to make sure our fans know that these will be able to be found, information about the great comics and the company and everything else that will be found below in the link here. Follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. For the 3 fans we have on Amoeba, thank you for that. And of course, maybe we'll get back on and do a TikTok video again at some point here in the near future. Fingers crossed. We'll see if that happens. But, we are not really that much at dancing, so we'll see what happens. But with any great comic book universe that you are going to create, you have to have a great tagline. For us, the great tagline is, of course, if you will, Ernie.
Peace out.
Peace out, everybody. We'll talk to you guys next time.
And that's another episode of Two Nerds and a Joke. Follow Robert and Ernie on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to their YouTube channel.